what do we do for people who host their like wakes and funerals here? Like in like the quad area, like in reserve the activities room, do you know? Like should Lisa and them be popping in and checking on them, or should like whoever's at cafe be checking on them? Because today they didn't even have a trash can, so they took my cafe one. And then also they broke some glass. And it's like, no one was really ever up there. So I was just wondering, like, is someone supposed to be checking in, or are they just completely on their own up there?
Normally activities make sure that it's lined up.
Yeah.
But they really don't do any cleaning or monitoring while it's going on.
Yeah.
It's just like, residents, families can rent the activity department.
Yeah, which is kind of what I figured, but like, I don't think it was like kind of set up like, here's a garbage can, for your mess.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was an oversight. It was just, it's only Vahida and Lisa today.
Mm-hmm.
They have, one person left at the beginning of the month because she got married and moved away. Sharon, as you all know, has not been well, but she's coming back in another week. So, and then another one, right now is not doing that well either. So she's short 3 people.
Yeah.
Wendy is on earned time, and it was Sister Constance's day off. It was just Lisa and Vahida.
Which I didn't have a problem. It's just I wanted to know, like, is there someone supposed to be checking in, like, to help them?
Well, the garbage cans should have been set up. And you can, if you do notice something for the next, heads up if it happens again, call Porter.
Okay.
I mean, they can take care of that too. So, did you end up having to do the cleanup?
No, I didn't have to. They cleaned it up. They just came in and was like, can we borrow a trash can? Because they didn't have one, which I gave them one, and that was fine. And then I just took the trash down. And then
you have the big one.
Yeah, and then I got them the box or whatever, and the broom and the thing to help them sweep up the glass that was broken. But that was it. I was just wondering, because like there was no one up there, so I didn't know. And they're like kind of like, can you help us? So
yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and normally we don't assign a person.
Yeah.
When people rent the activity room for an evening or a day on the weekend, like with the holidays coming up, we just set them up, and then they're on their own.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, and especially right now, she wouldn't even have an extra person to do that. So, so thanks for coming, you guys. Whenever there's a meeting like this and you're scheduled at work, like you, for example, Shante, you could have come in earlier today. And I don't know if anyone told you that, because you're going to lose some time, and I don't want you to have to, be behind. Like a cook can come in, the evening cook come in a little bit earlier. So, any of you that are scheduled to come in at noon, feel free to come in even an hour earlier, so like at 11 o'clock instead of noon. And then that way you don't have to worry about how am I going to get caught up, okay? So I'll try to make it short, okay? And I appreciate evening people coming in, even though it kind of cuts your day in half. Sometimes I've offered to, if people would just want to stay and help out in the department, that works out fine too. So if, you're not scheduled today, right? But if you're scheduled today?
No, I was gonna help Jen stock the freezer or something today.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got a few things left to unpack downstairs, so that's fine. Okay, on to that. I know it seems like Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year are still a few months away, but yesterday at the hairdresser she told me it's 15 weeks till Christmas. So, and the reason I even say that is just so newcomers know, we will put out a sign-up sheet. What we have always tried that you get at least one of those holidays off. Okay, so I'm talking about the 3 holidays: Christmas, Thanksgiving and New Year. One of them you'll get. The other two, you are going to be expected to work. Even if it's your weekend off, when does Christmas fall, on a Sunday this year?
Saturday.
Okay, so if it's your weekend off, don't expect that to be, that you're going to automatically get it. Okay? So if Christmas falls on your weekend off, but you didn't ask for Christmas, you're going to be working it. Does that make sense? Okay, so it gets to be like a puzzle for us to make up a schedule. So we'll be, probably in a few more weeks, we'll be hanging up a sign-up sheet. And on that sign-up sheet, it'll say first, second, and third choice. The first meaning the one holiday you really want off. Like, you know, for some people it's Christmas, especially if you have little ones, you know, most of the time those people. Another one is family gathering always at Thanksgiving, and they want that one. I think you're one of those, right? You want Thanksgiving. And then there's some people who want to do their party on the 31st of December, and they want their day afterwards off, okay? So we do our best to really give everybody at least one of those days off. Then there are some people who say, I'll work all of them because it's time and a half, and I do my celebrating some other time. And one thing that I've done is I've pretty well been here on all the holidays. I end up working the holidays because I feel like it's one time I can, you know, do my part. So, and I can celebrate in the evening or some other weekend with my family. So, just in case you're wondering, some people plan their year out a whole year in advance, but it's going to be here before we know it. Meetings, you know, I know sometimes it's like you probably wonder, hi, another meeting, or another Relias. But Relias is still a mandatory, so what is today, the 15th, so half the month is gone. You know, if you haven't done your Relias yet, please make sure if you have questions about how to get on or have trouble getting on. You know, if you're working at night, feel free to come in earlier and do it that way.
I'm doing mine today.
Oh, you do? Yeah, great. You know, or if you, on a weekend, on a day where you're not working upstairs, that would be a good time to come up here or come in an hour earlier and just let me know that's why you came in earlier. That's one way to do it. The cooks and I, and along with residents, are changing the menu a little bit. You know, waking it up a little bit. Some stuff has been on there way too long. Other stuff, you know, maybe you guys are tired of seeing too. So and plus we're, you know, summer is done. We're going into fall, so they're asking for a few things. So the cooks and I are working on that. In fact, the cooks are meeting once a week, and we go over some of those new items. Did I bring the menus up? No, I didn't. For next week, one new item was a new dessert, but in the evenings you're going to be seeing some new soups. You're going to be seeing butternut squash soup, chicken gumbo, chili is up next week, and then there was a fourth soup, but for the world of me, I can't remember now. So I always tell people, you know, sometimes if it's something that's totally new, not only for residents here, but maybe for you too, you know, have an open mind about it, because if you're going to be like, oh, what is this? Residents are not going to, you're not going to sell it, basically, you know. So I always encourage people to try it too. Get a little sample from the cook so you know what it tastes like. So, so you can convince the CNAs too, because the CNAs are out there. You know, they're the ones serving, and if they don't know what this is, or they're kind of negative about it, then help them with that. The butternut squash soup went over really well at the ladies' luncheon the other day. They've been asking for chili. The chicken gumbo in the past used to go really well. So There'll be several new items next week, and we're gonna continue to do that. In fact, we're working on changing the 4-week cycle to a 6-week cycle. So, just to keep you guys informed, so you'll see some new things. Okay. I know Jennifer has done some training with new people. One thing we'll be doing is even people that have been here for a while, we'll do some checking back with them and some competency. Nursing has done that, right? You want to explain that a little?
What, the competency?
Yeah. How nursing has done it, because you worked in nursing.
It's just like how kind of we do, we just, after your training, you meet with Sarah and you go over it, and then following your 90 days, they do another one with you,
Okay.
and then you do your year one. So.
Okay. So it's not trying to find fault, okay? It's just wanting to make sure. Sometimes maybe when you were trained, maybe somebody passed on some bad habits to you, and maybe you don't even know, okay? And sometimes it's an oversight on our part too. So it's a good way for us to double check, and it's a good way for you to ask questions too, because we get so busy during the shift that, Angel's not around, or I just want to get this done, that we don't ask questions. So be prepared. We'll set a time with each one of you, okay? I always try to keep everybody updated on the budget, how we're doing as a department, and we're doing well. I know we've been running short-staffed, so we're fine in that category. As far as food cost and those things, we've been running a bit over, but as you all know, food prices are going up for you too. So, but bottom line, we have done fine, and I give all of you credit for that. So you all have a part in that. Okay. So anybody know what the topic is today? No? No? I didn't say anything about what topic? Okay.
I don't know.
Do you remember, Stephanie?
You didn't put a paper up this time, did you?
We're going to talk about foodborne illnesses, okay? Anybody here ever contacted foodborne illness? Food poisoning is what people call it, okay? You have? You have? No? So who has? How many people? 3 people? You? Okay. Was that fun? How do you know it was a foodborne illness?
Your stomach's upset, head hurt.
Yeah. After you eat something that you always eat,
You were fine before you ate it, it's like after you done ate it, and it's been a few hours, and it's something that's persistent, doesn't go away right away, and you get more than one symptom, and you got it running through you one way, you're bringing it up another way, and
Yeah.
no matter what you
Same
take,
time.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Why do you think it's important for us here?
So the residents don't get it,
Right.
get sick.
So I mean, you guys are, you're spring chicken, right? You're young. How do you think, if you felt that miserable, how do you think it would affect somebody that's in their 80s, 90s,
Horrible.
and ill to begin with? It can be life-threatening.
Yeah.
It can be life-threatening to you too, depending on what it is. But foodborne illness is not a laughing matter. Do any of you recall any food products that you've heard on the news about?
Yeah.
No, eggs, yeah. That was just last year in Iowa.
Peanuts?
I know a couple of years ago.
Peanuts?
Beef.
Yeah.
Like, ground
Chicken, what is chicken?
Yeah.
What's chicken?
Like out in California, the little, what are they called? The little burger, something burger, those little burgers. A ton of kids got sick.
Sliders?
Yeah. Is that the one you're thinking of?
I'm not sure, I just know it was like a mass, it was a mass,
Recall.
recall on, I think it was just ground beef.
Yeah.
One time Sam's called me on my Cheerios.
On your Cheerios?
Sam's, they like called my phone number, they're like, there has been a recall on Cheerios, please check your box number.
I remember that.
So, us as a food service department, and I'm sure it's in restaurants too, you can only buy from, it starts even only being able to buy from approved vendors. Okay? I'm not gonna buy something from somebody that drives up the back door and tells me they have a good deal for me, okay? So it has to be approved vendors. And then also on how do we keep track once it comes in the door? How do we handle it once it comes in the door? How do we store it? How do we prepare it? How do we hold it? How do we serve it? On each one of those steps, something can go wrong. Okay, and that's why that's why we're having this conversation today, because all of you are involved in all those steps. I'm involved in the purchasing, yes. But once it walks in the door, all of you have a part in it. Once it's stored in the cooler, once it's brought upstairs or not brought downstairs, once it's labeled or not labeled, all of you have a part in each one of those steps. And when you think about, little ones, when they get food poisoning, how miserable they are. And they're at risk just as much as our elderly people, just as much as you and I are. If there is a recall, and it involves products that we bought from our vendors, I get an automated phone call that tells me, and they keep calling till I let them know that I have received the message. If I don't acknowledge that message, they will keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. So a while back, I had to throw out a whole case of those grape juice, okay? There was nothing, it wasn't a hazard as far as food poisoning, but it had to do with the packaging. But at the same time, no one takes a risk with something like that. It can cost companies millions. So I asked about the headlines. So I printed out some here. The Iowa eggs, you were the one that said that, right? Or you said eggs, okay. Even pet food is involved sometimes, okay. Conagra beef, that's the ground beef in 2009 that you're talking about in Colorado. More than 19 million pounds of the ground beef were recalled. Meat patties, Tops meat patties in 2007, E. coli. Peanuts, somebody said peanuts. You did, yeah, Peanuts Company, Peanut Corporation. Hudson beef, E. coli, 25 million pounds. Pilgrim Pride frozen turkeys and chicken, and these are the 10 worst ones. Cargill ground turkey, I remember that because we were dealing with Cargill at the time. So they had one person died, 75 got sick. Sara Lee recalled deli meats and hot dogs, 16,000 tons. The largest food recall in history was in 2008. The Hallmark Westland meat in California mistreated sick cows, when they're brought into the killing floor. Some of them were sick and didn't move. and they mistreated them, and they still pushed them through the killing line, even though they were sick. So, and no inspection was done. So, you know, that's why it's important to buy from an approved vendor on our part. So, you know, what are some of the foodborne illnesses that we hear?
Salmonella.
Cola.
E. coli. Those are the two prevalent ones that we hear all the time. Norovirus is another one that's frequent. And that you can get from an infected person, you can get it from food, you can get it from water. Listeria, have you ever heard that? And the bad thing about listeria, a lot of them, salmonella and E. coli, if food is, you know, some of that bacteria can be killed by hot temperatures or doesn't multiply if it's cooled or frozen. Listeria keeps multiplying even when it's stored properly. So like, and it's mostly found in lunch meats. So
That's how I heard about it.
The-
When you're pregnant, you know how they tell you don't eat like lunch meat and stuff
Yeah,
like that? That's
yeah.
how I heard
or even wine.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, not just because of that. Cheeses, H cheeses. Yep. This is one I couldn't remember, but it's a parasite, Toxoplasma. And it's a parasite. So we're talking about mostly bacteria, but also some parasites. E. coli we talked about. So those are the most well-known. The Salmonella and E. coli really hitting the top of the list. And that's why we end up getting pasteurized eggs. All of the eggs we get here, the raw eggs that are the liquid eggs, or even our whole eggs. If you ever go into the walk-in and you see our eggs, you'll see a P on top of the printed P on top of the egg. That means it's pasteurized. We probably pay about $8 to $10 more a case for them, but they are pasteurized, and it really cuts down on the danger of getting salmonella for us. So that's just kind of any questions so far? I don't really want to go into symptoms too much. I think you guys all pretty well know the time it takes from the time you ingest the food and the time you end up with symptoms is going to vary depending on what you have. Some of them, it can take several days or even up to a week for you to all of a sudden to become sick. So just because, you know, you got sick 6 hours ago means it's something you ate for breakfast or something you ate last night. It's not necessarily the case. In some cases, it can take several days up to a week. Okay. Does everybody know that you can look up every restaurant online? Scott County Health Department has a file that you can access online to see how people's sanitation reports are, how clean the place is, what their inspection was like, and if they have ever had a foodborne illness, a food poisoning outbreak. Anybody here know of a most recent one, not necessarily in this area, but a restaurant chain a few months ago?
Not a chain, but there's a place that, you know, I would eat at, that was on the list. It's called Ross's.
Ross's up in Bettendorf?
Mm-hmm.
Really? What happened?
They were just dirty, and they they actually had like 2 warnings, and I don't know what happened with it, but yeah, they were on the list.
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that it's been downhill since they've moved that before.
Yeah.
Like the food's not as good as they say. It's
Who?
just not. Like people who've gone, like my parents have gone, and like friends of to Ross's and Bettendorf, they're like, it's not the same, they say it's no good anymore,
Has changed.
since they moved.
Well, she be up here though, trying to get her business up. She know, I think she knows, you know. Cause she drop her cars off all the time at the front desk now. Tell your friends they here.
Anybody know of one here in the Quad Cities a few years back?
Azteca?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely was a proven foodborne illness outbreak. But so they've come a long ways. They buckled down and they made changes, and none of that has happened again.
That's good. They
but-
eat a lot.
You really pick them, don't you, Justin?
Don't worry, I've been in for the margarita.
Don't worry.
But I'm thinking of a chain of a chain of restaurants.
That
It's-
one that just, I don't know.
Chipotle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chipotle.
Chipotle, remember?
Just a few months
Yeah.
ago. And they actually had some severe illnesses.
Bad.
So, they have not just consumer complaints, but lawsuit too. But they're trying to fight their way back too. So, people say, well, how can I protect myself? And some people say that's why I don't eat out. Okay. I'm one, when I go out to eat somewhere, I always make sure that I get sort of a glance into the kitchen. I look at how do people look like, because, impression of how clean somebody is gives me an impression too of, how the place is kept. What's the first impression? What do the dishes look like? What's the silverware look like? I'm picky. When I go out to eat, I am picky. So there, I just want to talk about 3 key areas where you and I can have a part in keeping residents safe. Oh, shoot. Personal hygiene is the very first one. Okay? If you come in a clean uniform, what's the thing that is stressed all the time?
Hand washing.
Yeah, I gave it away when I did this. Frequent hand washing. So, I watch people when they come into the department and they get ready to work. What really, after a hand, it should be your first thing? Hand washing. Hand washing after handling dirty dishes. Hand washing going from one job to the other. Hand washing when you're, working with the dish machine too. Going from dirty to clean. How you're handling the silverware, how you're handling the glasses, how you're handling the plates. So not coming to work when you have certain symptoms. That's why all of you signed that paper when you first started, that if you have those symptoms of diarrhea, vomiting, fever, or sore throat with fever, or an open wound, that you can't come to work. Okay, it's for you to get well faster, first of all, okay, and have time to recoup, and then second, not to put our residents at risk, and bring something that tells us that you're okay to come back to work. Not eating or drinking while you're working. I don't mind somebody tasting something. You've seen me taste things, okay? But keeping your lunch on the side, or keeping, your drink on the side. If it's water, I understand that. I would never say you can't drink water, but don't have an open container, okay? No smoking is a given on this campus anyway. But that's some of your own personal hygiene practices. Take your apron off when you go to the bathroom or go on your break, okay? Leave it in the kitchen and have it back on. Those are some very basic guidelines. The second key thing is really on how you do your work, and that means if you're going to handle food directly, either use utensils or wear clean gloves, okay? And so that means if you end up wearing gloves and you're handling food with your hands and you answer the phone, that glove is not clean anymore. Sometimes people think just because I wear gloves, I'm doing the right thing. Not necessarily, okay? Keep in mind that, you know, if I do this, you know, or if I do that, you've contaminated your fingers, you've contaminated your hand. So some stuff we do without being conscious of it. You know, be aware of that as you go through the day. I always say if I don't have to wear gloves and I can use utensils, I would rather do that. You know, I start out with clean hands, I keep washing my hands, and if I use utensils, I'm fine. Because to me, gloves on some things get in the way. And if I can serve behind the line upstairs with the utensils, there's no need for gloves, okay? And then I don't have to worry about if I have to run into the kitchen and heat up something, and then wash my hands and change gloves again. You make sure you label and date all your items. And anybody know what the, when do we toss things?
3 days after the first day. Like, it's
The third day.
Yeah, the third day, like, yeah.
It's on the third day. Because if you wait till the next day, then it's, yeah. So sometimes it seems like a waste, and that's why I tell cooks and cooks helpers to keep an eye on leftovers. But we're pretty strict here. I don't know, what do you guys do in a restaurant? How long do you, same, 3 days and out? Okay. Another one too is keeping your wiping cloths in a sanitizing solution. So cleaning rags, you know, used cleaning rags should never sit out. They should be in your sanitizing solution. And what's the test strip? 200 parts per million. Okay. Sanitizing, observing the wash, rinse, sanitize in the pot and pan, in your dish machine area, following the guidelines on temperatures. All of those, they're things that are part of your work routine, but they keep residents safe also. And they can or cannot have a part in preventing foodborne illness. What's the temp on the washing machine, on the dish machine? Because you're supposed to write them down on the checklist.
Around 170.
Like 160, no, that's true.
That's for the wash, you're warm. Okay, what's the rinse? 180, yeah. And that's the outside temp, okay? Those temperatures are a little bit higher than what the food code says. But if you have those outside temps like that, you know you're gonna be hot enough. Because we don't have a chemical sanitizer in the dish machine, so the heat is what sanitizes our silverware, our dishes, our pots and pans. We use a quat chemical in the pot and pan sink, and in you guys' sanitizing buckets to sanitize the tabletops, food prep surfaces, etc. Another guideline is don't keep chemicals around food. We used to have these little pills. You might want to say that. We used to have these little pills in the cook's area for
Sanitizer.
yeah, for sanitizer, and they looked like Tums.
Or sweet tarts, the
Yeah,
candy.
they looked like Tums. They were the size of Tums, those
Brown,
big
white.
fat.
Brown.
Yeah, just like that. And you know, sometimes people go by the color of something versus really reading the label. So all of those things play a part in preventing illness. Covering food when you transport it outside the kitchen area, testing and recording temps of the food, because that's a part in keeping food safe. Not touching, you know, when you're setting tables or when you're serving, not touching glasses or coffee cups on top, or, you know, if this is the plate sticking your, yeah. I've seen it. So those are some of the own, really basic guidelines that apply through your day. Those are work practices. And then there's food prep and cooking guidelines that maybe some of you don't have a part of, at least not here, but maybe in the other place. One of the ones is washing all your fruits and vegetables before you cut them, okay? Sometimes people will, I've seen it with lettuce, cut it and then wash the lettuce. Cut it doing that with melons. You want to wash it first. You want to wash all your fruits, raw fruits and vegetables before you cut them, before you prep them. You store, we have storage guidelines. That's why we keep produce out of the meat cooler. That's why we even have guidelines on where raw meat has to be, where cooked meat is, where the eggs are stored. It all has to do with keeping food safe. And I won't go into what those specific guidelines are. When it comes to pulling something out of the oven, I still see it sometimes where people say, well, I want to cool it off before I put it in the fridge. Don't want to do that, because this temperature is perfect. It's called the danger zone, right? It's in the middle of the danger zone. And if you have food cooling at room temp, you've got everything bacteria needs. You've got moisture, you've got food, you've got warmth, and perfect breeding ground, okay? They multiply rather quickly. So we have guidelines, the cooks have guidelines on how quickly something has to be cooled down. They're even supposed to keep records of that.
And I did that
Why
the
you
other
laughing?
day, but, because I did that the other
No,
day.
I'm laughing because of that whole, sometimes when I cook dinner and if I fall asleep or without putting it away or something, like the leftovers, and I see theirs next morning, I throw it away.
Yeah.
Austin will get mad at me, like, why'd you throw that away? I did it.
No, don't.
That's why I'm laughing, because he just yelled at me.
I thought you was talking about, because I thought she was talking about my cool down process, because I did it right, but I'm just saying, when I thought about it, I looked up and said, oh, the turkey is in the freezer.
And that's a pet peeve of mine, that when people leave, maybe they are preparing a food item and they're taking a half-hour break. Don't leave it set out. Time yourself, either take your break later, finish your job, and then put your stuff away. Or maybe they're leaving stuff out because they got started on something and they don't go back to it till 3 hours later to finish it up, and it's been sitting out. No. It's, this food at room temperature is a perfect breeding ground, okay? So what is that danger zone we always talk about?
40 and 1. How do you say it? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
No, Cassandra.
41 to 139, what is it?
No, 140.
What,
Just say 41 to 140. If it's 140, we're fine, okay? And that's Iowa. The federal food code actually says 135, but in Iowa it is 140, okay? And if it is 41 or below for cold food, you're fine too. So the danger zone, we always say 41. Anything between 41 and 140 is called the danger zone. And that's what you want to keep food out of. So you want to keep your food upstairs when you're serving, 140 or above. Your cold food in that salad table, 41 or below. That's why I don't like to see things stacked up, because what's the use of that? Okay, better open another one of those parts in the salad bar and move it over there to where it actually can stay cold. And always, don't leave things sitting out. Move them back into the fridge, move them back into the walk-in. So those are some reminders for you. Hopefully maybe some new stuff that you're aware of now. I try to keep it simple. I try not to make it a another preaching, but maybe that can help you even at home. My husband sometimes will say, I think we better move this out of the fridge here. It's older than 3 days because I've been preaching as him, and that was news for him. So, of course, it doesn't apply to, salad dressings, mayonnaise, those kind of things we can keep a bit longer. But for you that work at night, make sure you label and date anything you put away. Put it away properly because that has a part in it too. So I appreciate all the extra you guys do. Glad I have new people, Justin, Shantae. Even though maybe I look like I hide out in my office all the time. I try to, huh?
I said no.
What did she say?
I said let her be in the office.
Oh!
Cause I have her all day. No.
So, any questions with what is going on, maybe in the department or up on the floors? No? You look like you have a question.
I was thinking if I did, but.
Okay. How about you, Venetia? No? And I know it's time. It's 3. Okay? Just a quick one. Everybody have a pen?
No,
I only have 1 extra pen.
that's me. I called you first.
Okay. Just pass that on. Will you pass it on? Thank you. Cost you 50 cents.
I got
And I want it back.
$1.